And thank you, Sentinel, for having us here. So I know you got the great promotion. You got the reading level for you. Thank you guys for coming. I'm so excited to be here. I know it's a little bit after the release of Sentinel, but this is, going to be our kind of like little release party. So that's why we got some cupcakes and all that good stuff back there. Did you guys, before I get started, I think you guys wanted to do a quick giveaway first? Okay. Because we have tons of stuff to give away. Some things we're not going to tell you how to get them, but very active. Will probably mean you win something. So, we have tons of giveaways. We have books, there's some copies of Trust in Me around there somewhere. Tons of free books from other authors, swag, cupcakes, and Jen from Genuine Cupcakes. She's right there. She's really she's the cupcake bomb maker. She's just those cupcakes are so good. I got how many last weekend? They're all gone by Monday. And it was like a giant carton of cupcakes. So I was like, wow, I just had a sugar rush. And she's also in Be With Me. So when you guys read Be With Me, Jace has a cousin, and her name is Jen, and she makes cupcakes. So you're related to a fictional character. How does that feel? So do you want to do the first giveaway?
Do you want to go? All right.
Does anyone not have a ticket?
We need a ticket. We all shut there.
Everyone has tickets, right? The first swag bag goes to 733671.
The format for this signing for you guys is, what we're doing. We're going to do a quick, not a quick discussion, but we're going to do a discussion. And then once everyone's kind of asked the questions, all that good stuff, then we'll move into the signing portion of it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to, if you guys have known, I've been hinting towards there's going to be a reveal at this bookstore. So we're going to get this out of the way. Because I'm sure you guys are going to have questions about it. Now, for those who have not read Sentinel, okay, this is some spoilers and stuff for you. But unfortunately, you're at the release party to beat that for. A lot of people who've read Sentinel have been asking certain questions. So who's read Sentinel here? Okay. What is the number one question do you think I get asked about Sentinel? It's like Damon from Vampire Diaries. Single perfect hero. Okay, so this is actually not the cover. So believe it or not, this is not the cover. This is a cover placement. So this is what the cover placement looks like. Like a piece of the cover. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about this because I'm sure you guys are going to have some questions about it. It is coming out in early February, I think February 2015 is the release date for it. This is going to be a standalone series from the Covenant series. So for those who have not read the Covenant series, you actually will not have to read the Covenant to read this series. Obviously, there are going to be some characters from the Covenant series that you will see. You will, for example, I will tell you Apollo/Leon will be in it because he has to be. He's my favorite character. I I think his name's like Uncle Bob or something. It is, you will see Deacon and Luke. They will be in it. The main female character has not been introduced in the series. She is mortal. She has no knowledge of any of that stuff. So it's coming in from a totally different perspective. It's not someone who's been in the mix of things. It also will be in dual POV. So it's in Seth's POV and in the girl POV. And what else can I say about it? I can't say that. Yeah, I can't say the name yet, but I'm very excited about this. Seth has always been like one of my favorite characters out of all my guys I've created. Also, the big thing is, okay, so obviously in the Covenant series, I've never mentioned Seth's age. Like if you notice, he never has a last name, and I never say his age. And he's obviously older than 18. So when I was talking with Kate about, you know, we've been planning this off and on for a while now, for over a year, talking about it. And I said, there's no way I can put Seth into a high school situation, because that's just creepy at this point. Like, what are you doing there, you know? Come on now. And he already has some creeper tendencies. This is just worse at this point. So I was like, we realized, like, this book, does have to bump up to new adult. Not because, and I don't want people to think it's like jumping on a bandwagon, or it means it's going to be like, oh, it's like Covenant series rated R. Yeah, it's not that. But because Seth's character has always been older than 18, and it just would not make sense to pair him with somebody who was in high school. Just like I said, to me, it was just been creepy. It was just like, what are you doing, stuff? But so it is into new adult, so it's new adult paranormal. So that's exciting. That it's kind of different than what's out there, and that's pretty much all I think I can really say about it. I'm super excited, and I hope you guys are too. And yes, he does have a single tear. When I saw this guy, I was like, oh my god, he looks like Seth. Yeah, right? Walk with it like that. I know you. So obviously, here's the one thing I can tell you. It's a Titan novel. So obviously we're departing from Greek mythology at this point. So we're going into the Titans. So, which is obviously Greek mythology too, but the Titans are a totally different race of themselves.
I totally write a lot about Greek mythology in your book.
I'm sure your history teachers are so proud of that. But it's so funny with the Covenant series is because I focus on a lot of the lesser known myths and lesser gods. Like all the gods that are in the series are actual real Greek mythology gods. And people like, I didn't know there were so many of them. And I'm like, those people like reproduce like bunnies. I mean, they were like, there's gods calling out of everything. And there's gods from for everything. So with the Titans, they were kind of the same way. They also, the Titans birthed the Greek gods. So, and they're pretty. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the discussion for some questions. So if you guys want to ask some questions first, so please be active. Like I said, remember to win things. Be active. So if you guys have questions, can you guys pick whoever has a question?
Okay, one of my favorite characters is Sentinel.
Yes. She asked, one of her favorite characters from Sentinel is Fricky. And yes, he does pop up again. He actually does something really bad. And you know the Titans are untuned. They're not dead. So what do you think a Titan does? He's bored. Apparently Vegas is no longer interesting to him. He makes his way down his fortress and he lets the Titans out. So yes, we ask questions.
Will we see Alex at all?
Not enough, no. And here's the reason why. I wanted to, first off, oh gosh, spoiler alert, I won't go into detail. But she can't. If you remember the ending of Sentinel, she just can't roam around. So and also I want the series to stand alone. I don't want people to read it looking for a glimpse of Alex, looking for a glimpse of Aiden. I want it to be Seth's story, because I think, there's enough of his side of the story that I don't want to rely on other characters. That doesn't mean throughout the series that they don't make a reappearance. I mean, they're probably going to have to at some point, but ultimately, the first book, they will not.
What was your favorite myth?
My favorite myth before? That's a tough question. I think my favorite myth, and this is going to sound kind of cliche, is going to be the Hades myth, because in the mythology, the real mythology, it wasn't like he kidnapped her. She did, but she purposely ate the fruit in the underworld to stay there, because she knew that once she did that, she could not leave. So I kind of like how that myth has gotten twisted. I also like the Cupid myth, which is every night he comes to visit Psyche. Every night he visits her, but she's told never to look at him, and then she does finally. So I always like that myth. But I also kind of, more than the myth, I like the personality of the gods. I've always thought that they were like a bunch of overgrown children, kind of like running them up. And I've always said like the Olympus is like Jerry Springer. Crazy. And so I think more than anything, I've always liked the personalities of the gods, because they're very apathetic creatures that are capable of doing good things when it serves them to do good things, which is not often. Thank you.
For the return, is it starting after Sentinel, or are we getting like his point of view through some of the stories?
No, it's going to start after, and mainly because I want to move the story ahead. Of course, he's going to be obviously thinking about the events that led up to the end of Sentinel and the stuff that he had done towards the end, and he's dealing with those consequences of his choice that he made. But it won't be flashing back or doing like a POV flip. I mean, maybe when it gets closer to the release of this, I know people have been asking to see like Aiden's POV and stuff like that last chapter kind of thing, or they've been asking to see his. So maybe towards the release of this book, I might do something like that just to get people back into the series, because it will be a little over a year before it comes out.
My question is, how people love to hate Seth. Are we going to love him, or are we going to have a change of heart once we read him?
I think he's going to love to hate him. I mean, he's like annoying. Like the best. Because he's annoying in a fun, kind of sexy way. But he's. I think Seth has some baggage. I mean, he really does, and I don't think Seth has ever really loved anyone but himself. When it really comes down to it, like I think that he has feelings and he cares for other people, but in reality, he's never really gone there. So I think he's definitely going to have moments of great jerkiness because Seth. But I hope he'll love him in the end.
So we're giving out other Sentinel books now, so if you've already gotten one, tell me which one you got so that I can read it.
Okay, this is kind of a spoiler. Are you planning between Apollo and DJ, like with that?
Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little secret here. When I first started writing those two characters, I really didn't have anything planned for them history-wise. I just thought it was funny that the way Deacon and Apollo interacted with one another. And I didn't realize that readers would really pay attention to that. And I think sometimes as authors we don't realize that the things that we don't think about ever, you guys really catch and focus on, like, the funny thing is, like, this Wait For You series, Ollie. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, I love Ollie. And I'm like, Ollie's the stupidest character. And everyone's like, who's Ollie getting his own book? I'm like, cool. And it's funny, so when I really first started, because I don't plot, so a lot of times I just things create themselves as I'm writing. And so once I realized that everyone was like, oh my god, what's up with Apollo and Deacon? And then, I mean, they obviously had some kind of relationship at some point. I don't think it was a detailed relationship. I mean, Apollo's free-loving. He does not discriminate against anything. So I think, that's something that might be explored more in the other series. But it was something that kind of started off as fun between them and kind of grew its own little thing on the side.
Let's do a flag test.
Did anyone new arrive and not get a ticket? Yeah, we have something more people out. I'm going to knock this down.
I'm glad you guys can see this little cheaper. I know, right? I know, right? No one sees you.
Hide behind it, yeah. Does everyone have tickets now? Everyone? Covered?
Okay, the ticket, the last 3 digits are 655.
All right.
Okay. Awesome, congrats. Okay, next question.
What's your favorite side character out of all?
My favorite side character out of all of the series, I have to say, like, out of every single one of them, there's 2, and they're tied. You have the Daryl shirt on. Sorry, I just missed that. I saw the Twitter. Daryl Dixon, that's my favorite side character. I had my shirt on Daryl, the guy who did with shoes. But I don't care, because he's redneck hot. Okay, so my favorite side character is going to be tied. Leon / Apollo is my favorite, because he's just such a deadpan. He's a fun character to work with, because you never know what he is going to say, and I don't when I'm writing him. And my favorite line of any book I've ever written is when he tells Fat Stuff that he's going to turn him into a bush that smells like cat pee. Because you all smell those bushes, right, that smell like cat pee. And he's like one of my favorites. The second one is a character, there's actually tied, and they're not really characters, they're creatures, and you guys haven't met them yet. They're in the dark elements, which make sure you do, here's the sneak peek at Bittersweet Love, so make sure you guys get this. Harlequin team sent this. One of my favorite sidekicks or whatever is in Bittersweet Love. His name's Herbert. And he's funny, and I got the idea from Herbert watching Paranormal State. Just FYI. There was this creature that was supposedly on Paranormal State, and I was like, this isn't real. I was like, I've never heard of this, and I Googled it, and I was like, holy crap, people think this thing is real. So I'm like, I did, he's in this book. And then my second favorite sidekick character, who really is a sidekick, is in My Hot Kiss, and it's named Bambi. So, yes, Bambi. For those who are familiar with Bambi at this point, I think we'll love Bambi. Yeah, Bambi's pretty cool. Ross, the character in My Hot Kiss, has a habit of naming his little creature features after Disney characters. So he has Thumper. But then his kittens. He has kittens too. I think they're named like Thor and Bane. Yeah, but they're not nice kittens. So they're my 2 favorite, and just because I think they kind of like they steal the show a little bit, like when they come on the thing. So working it.
Do you have this one? You do.
Okay, what about... There we go. Okay.
Next question. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Down here? Yeah. It's kind of two-part. You said it a little bit that maybe you would say in, POV before that one comes out. But one, are they really done, Alex? Are you done writing really with Alex and Aiden? And how do you feel about it? I mean, you wrote a lot.
I think when you get to the end of the series, because I'm also writing the last book in the last series right now. When you get to the end of the series, I know. When you get to the end of the series, it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. I actually got a little choked up writing Sentinel just because I knew this was the end, and I like to leave my characters in a good place. I think as a writer, you know when the series is done. Maybe the world is not done, but the series, those characters are done, and I never want to be like one of those, and we all, I think, at some point fall into that trap where we're told to extend the series out past its expiration date, and you can tell when you start getting into those books, you're like, this spark's not there anymore with the author. Yeah, it's just, you're just like, I don't care. I hope you all die. I don't care about the characters anymore. Go find somebody else. Yeah, you're ready to move on. And, but, you never can say never. I mean, because often one day you may get an idea about something, but I never want to give, as you guys well know, I believe in happily ever after. But I believe in happily ever afters that have to be earned, and they may not be the happy endings that you want, but they're happy. You're not gonna, I'm hoping you finish a series and you're not walking in a corner somewhere. I never want to take a happy ending from a reader, and that's something I personally don't like, is when I think a series is over, then I find out 2 years later the series is starting up again, and I just want to, drop the mic and just walk out. Because, the couple's going to be broken up at that point, and it's going to just be drama, and I stopped caring at that point. So that's why they're done. But with the Lux series, I think the Lux series, though, that world will also be done, because what happens at the end of Origin and in Opposition, there's really not much you can explore after that, really.
That one I don't.
Thank you. What was the hardest thing you ever
The hardest scene I've ever written. I don't think there's one scene in particular that I think was the hardest. I will tell you the two types of the hardest scenes for me to write. The two types are the action stuff, because you can only explain action so many different ways that you don't want to bore the reader. So they can get difficult, especially in Opposition. There is a lot, spoiler. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot, it ain't good. At the end of Opposition and Origin. And so you get to the point where, and especially with the Lux series, not so much of the Covenant series, because they're very handle, and I'm like, thank God I made them handle, and I didn't make them creatures of freaking light. The fighting for that is ridiculous. I'm like, they're flying everywhere. I'm picturing, the Goblet of Fire, or no, what's the one with, the Order of the Phoenix. Yeah. I'm picturing Harry Potter is the band. That's ridiculous. So they get hard. And also, another thing that gets hard is the kissing in my older stuff, sexy stuff. Because you don't want to keep repeating the scenes over and over again. And so you have to find ways of making them, creative, that they're not ridiculous. Sometimes I love historical romance, but sometimes the way to describe things, I'm just like, I thought you were describing a landscape. You were describing someone's life. And so I try not to do that, because at that point you just have to laugh. There's actually an award that gives out every year. It's the best worst written love scene. It's hilarious. You have to go, oh my gosh, some of these things are just like, I can't believe someone wrote that. And we're being serious in the process. So I think they're the two hardest. If I had to pick a scene, I would say the hardest was probably the end of Sentinel with Alex and Sass was hard. Because I think that was just an emotional scene for them. Are you guys picking someone to ask questions? Because I'm not paying attention to who's standing up. Hi! All the way back there.
Out of all the books you wrote, which one was probably the hardest?
The hardest book for me to write was Sentinel. And I think it's because I got, like, performance anxiety. I mean, it's the last book. It's like you can't make it better in the next book. Because sometimes you're like, you know, oh, I can't clear this up. You feel like that's it. And you want to give readers a satisfying ending. You don't want them to be with you for this whole process. And then you get them to the last book and lose them. And, you know, and so that book was hard. Stone Cold Touch, which is the sequel of White House Kiss. I'm not sure if they announced that part of it. That was hard. And that was hard for a totally different reason that I'm not allowed to go into. But that was a hard book for me to write. And I think Opposition so far has been easy, but I think once I start getting towards the end, that will then take the place of the hardest book for me to write. So. You should wing it back there.
Does everyone have a ticket?
No. I don't have a ticket. I hear like Willy Wonka. I'm going to go into
This is your ticket. I'll hold on to it for a second. We'll see the shoot.
Okay. Okay. 693.
all the way back there. That ivy red planet thing, Lego thing. Kind of creepy.
Get your own.
Like really.
You want to come up?
She asked, out of any series, the hardest character to write. The hardest character for me ever to get in the head of was Aiden. Was very hard because I think he's very, like he shows one thing and he kind of thinks something different. He was hard, so I don't foresee me doing a lot of POV things with him because I'm like, this is tough. I'm gonna be lazy. And Jace and Tess from Be With Me were really hard because it was they had a lot of stuff going on that made the story kind of hard to do. So they were hard. But yeah, like the easiest ones for me are usually Seth and Damon, and I mean they're all kind of cut from the same cloth, and so they're always easy to use when I have to get to their POVs and write. Next question.
Let's call it front here. Go front center, sorry. Oh, okay.
If you could go back in time and like when you were first starting, like writing just like your first book, if you could tell yourself like one thing from where you are now, like what would you tell yourself?
Oh my God, just one thing. One thing I tell myself. Oh my gosh. I would tell myself to research how to write a story. They're probably starters. No, I think the one thing I would tell myself is oh, this just kind of sounds so cheesy. You know, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Right? On a t-shirt. Not a marathon sprint. No, but seriously, because you get so caught up in like writing all the time. You get so caught up like feeling like you have to produce just like that you lose some of the drive for wanting to create stuff. So I think if I told myself anything was to like simmer down a little bit, like, you know, it's okay to smell the book roses as you're writing, and you know, because it does feel a little bit of pressure, especially since, you know, when you have books that come out like 6 months apart, everyone expects all your books in the history of ever to come out in 6 months apart, and sometimes that's just not feasible, and it might not even be because of writing it. It comes down to the publication schedule. You should see my poor agent. She has to bring up a spreadsheet every time she talks to someone. I was like, nope, that month's not going to work. And they're like, what about it? She's like, nope. And and then she doesn't. Sometimes she gets on the phone like, she goes, Kate, didn't look at the spreadsheet, and then we had to call Kate back and be like, that's not going to work. I know what Kevin told you was wrong. That's not going to work. But it's I think just to enjoy it more, because I think you get kind of. I was telling Demartha, where is she, Demartha?
Right here.
Oh, all the way over there. I was telling her last night that wanting to be a writer has always been a dream, and I think sometimes once you get that dream, you lose. That dream turns into a job, and you lose sight of the fact that was your dream at some point, and you have to treat it like a job. You really do. But you tend to lose, a little bit of that. So I think to tell yourself to slow down. They had questions all the way back there. I know they haven't seen the hands.
Hey, because you're writing multiple series at one time, how do you keep your characters and know that which one you're writing for?
Yeah. She asked, since I write multiple series, how do I keep my characters basically apart? I will not work on more than one book at a time. So if I'm writing pure, I won't do edits, I won't start anything else. And that is what keeps them separate from me. Also, I always write I'll write a paranormal or a science fiction, and then the next book I write will always be a contemporary. So I write them, I stagger them like that. So, because by the time I finish writing a paranormal or a fantasy, I'm done. I don't care anymore. And then because they're hard. I sound like a whiny person. They're hard. They expect me to remember things. And when I write a contemporary, they're easy for me. But then by the time I get done writing a contemporary, I'm like, this book needs a dragon. In the middle of campus. Notice if I put one down. And so by those times I do that, it gets me excited to write the next thing, because the next thing is always going to be so different from what I'm currently working on. So I think that helps. And if you guys have noticed, I obviously a lot of my guys look the same. You can tell what I personally like. I'm describing them in a certain way. Tall, dark, and handsome. I throw the occasional blonde in there. So so it helps me keep them separate by separating the genres when I'm writing them.
Get your arm out there.
She's trying to get some of this back there. Everybody right here. We're leading the recess.
Where do you get the ideas from your books? They're out there. What do you think?
What? Aliens in high school is out there? The funny thing is I always feel like when someone asks me where I get my ideas from, because there's these authors who have this great motivational story, and they're like, well, I was feeding these children and these kittens one day, and it's this beautiful story, and then I'm like, I'm bored. I write because I'm bored, and I get ideas because I'm bored. And really I think just an overactive imagination. I was one of those kids that was always running around pretending like I was in Star Wars or whatever, and I think that just grew into having that overactive imagination. But the funny thing is I'll hear something, and that's how I'll get an idea. One day I was leaving Target, and I had the radio on, and they were talking about the TV show Blacklist. And I didn't hear anything beyond that, but I heard that term Blacklist, and then it spun into this idea that I was like, oh my God, that would make a great book. So I was rushing home to tell my agent, what my idea was. So a lot of times like that, I'll just hear something, and I start working it, turning it over in my head, and getting an idea out of it. Wait for you, I was taking a shower, and I came up with it. And everyone's like, you need to do that more often. I'm like, what do you think I do on a daily basis? Maybe it's usually not that productive. So, I think it really just comes down to having an overactive imagination. Just, because some of them are pretty out there.
Which one do I have?
Sorry. Okay. We're going to do a wrap up.
Let's ask her a question. We keep forgetting her. Yeah.
What if you have one specific word of advice for teenagers who want to be like a professional writer? Do
Mhm.
you have any suggestions?
It's right. I mean, because here's the thing, everybody wants to be a writer. Very few people want to write. And because writing is not easy. I mean, it is hard. It can get very hard because you write yourself into corners, you write yourself into a giant plot hole the size of Canada. I mean, it happens, and you have to write. And so the best advice I can give to any young writers is to write. Write every day, even if it's only 100 words, write. Also, go online and find writing communities. There are tons of them. There's Inkpop, there's Wattpad, there's Quarry Tracker, and you'll be surrounded by other people who want to write, because one of the things when you want to be a writer, it's the same thing as wanting to be a singer, wanting to be a model, wanting to be an actor, wanting to be a painter. Everyone basically pats you on the head like, that's nice. And I mean they do, because it's like I always told people, like when you tell people you're a writer and you feel like you're telling people that you're going on American Idol and they know you can't sing. And they just give you that look where they're like, and so I surround yourself with like-minded people, and there's so many communities online for that, because you're going to need it, because there's going to be people who are going to look at you like, what are you talking about? And so I think that also hurts people who want to write, young or old, is because the lack of support that inherently is there.
Yeah, got a shot.
Straight away.
Does everyone have a ticket?
I was going to do Archer and do your history. I was like, I can't wait for she do it.
682.
682. She got quiet back there. Like me. Okay. Alright, next question. Okay, Brooke.
Who is your least favorite character? Who you hate out of all your books? Or not hate, or hate's too strong of a word, but dislike the most.
The damn turtle from Wasteland.
I love the turtle.
My least favorite character. I would say probably in White Hot Kiss there is a character named Elijah and another character named Peter, and I don't like them. I don't think you guys like them either. So I think they're my probably ones I hate the most. I'm trying to think if there's another character that I never liked. No, that's not it.
Brooke, is there any book you haven't read?
All the way back.
What's your favorite sexy scene in someone else's?
Earmuffs, youngins. My favorite sexy scene that someone else wrote. I would have to say probably Foreplay by Sophie Jordan. Sophie Jordan wrote the Firelight series, if you guys are familiar with that. She has a new adult book, Foreplay, and it's not like over the top or anything, but it's so sweet, and it's so, I just love that book, and I think those scenes were just done so well. They weren't overly graphic kind of thing, so if you haven't read Foreplay, I would read that. And it's suitable for under, I think, 16, 17 up, to be honest with you, because it's not, it's like the title, it's easier for being like, wow, what's this about? And it's not like that, so I would have to say that. And Dare Ward, anything she does.
Did I read that you like Virtue Small?
Who?
Did you read Virtue Small when you were younger?
What's it called?
She reads like historical romance with Ashton and Skype.
I grew up reading historical romance, so because when I was a teenager, the YA section was like not even as wide as this table. So that could have been me, but I was a big historical romance reader. She's got kind of like a big
Everyone in this area is raised their hand and look at one.
This is Swamp Angel and this is the Dollhouse Asylum.
Not that big a
Either one. Swamp.
No one wants to yell Swamp Angel too.
This girl, Queen Damon himself. You had to kiss one for one, marry one.
Good question. Okay, so it's really funny. There's a girl, her name is Angela. She's from Reading Angel. And she came up with a slogan, which cracks me up. She says, "Damon for a night, Aiden for life." And every time I hear that, just cracks me up. If I had to kiss one, I would probably, oh God, Seth and Damon are tied. I would either kiss or kill Damon and Seth, and I would probably marry Aiden, because Aiden is a good guy. I mean, Damon's a handful. He's hot. But that ego of his, I think, would get in the way of a real relationship. But in the book world, it doesn't, because everything's perfect. And Seth, I probably would either kiss or kill, because Seth, you just probably want to strangle him at some point, because he would just keep picking and picking and picking until you're just like, I'm going to snap. But that's hard between those two. Yeah.
You're the first, I hate love triangles. I'm going to throw that out there. You're the first author that I was like, I don't know who choose Aiden or Seth. But I want to know, are we going to find anything out about Seth's past, like his childhood and stuff in his book?
Yes. In his book, you will find out about his past. You might even find out his last name. He didn't have a good childhood. I think he had a very cold childhood, very, not good at all. So you'll find more about that. And one thing about love triangles, I think, in my opinion, I don't like love triangles unless there's not a clear. The only time I like love triangles is if I literally cannot pick between two guys. And I think sometimes love triangles is always a clear winner, in the triangles. You know who's going to get that. And so I hope when I do love triangles, there's not a clear distinction to people, because I think that helps you fall in love with both. So in the end, you're not, hating because they ended up with somebody else.
Are you going to do a series with, Archer and Dee from the love series?
No.
Because it was so funny where she was, thinking of him, and then he was like, oh, he reads minds, by the way.
Yeah. What was Dee thinking? Probably not, no. I have toyed with the idea of actually showing you what went on during opposition from Dee's POV, between Dee and Archer, because in my head I know what happened between them and David, or outside of David.
Oh, no.
And so I don't know if the reader may be suspicious of what they think might have went down, but I would like to show so people could see that.
Yeah,
but I couldn't do a full-length novel just because I feel like there wasn't enough there to really do that.
Is there a lead and continuation?
She asked, is Hunter, he is from Obsession, is he going to be in the Lux series? The opposition, yes. Hunter, his two brothers are in it. And for those who read Opposition, there's the reference to the guy who kind of leads the Aram. He's going to be in it, so all of them are in it. So that's why there's no other book after Obsession, is because it crosses over right into one.
Is there any female character you identify the most with?
She asked if there's any female character I identify the most with. It's funny, for the longest time I was like, I don't see myself at all in any of the characters. And I think if people had to ask me who I related the most with, it would probably be Katie, because of her love of books and things like that. But the funny thing is people who, after they know me in real life, they always say, you sound like Alex. And so I think I realized, I put more of my personality without realizing it into Alex, because I do have a really constant stream in my head sometimes that I can't share. But I think that's what I probably relate to most on paper would probably be Katie, because with her love of books and kind of, she's pretty average, she's not super human at the beginning and stuff like that, so.
Do you have either of these? Everyone have a ticket? I have 5 in the
And going to the next one.
Sure, what's 989?
Try again. 639.
Next question.
You said you would write yourself into a hole, a wall or something. How do you kind of get yourself out of it? Because I always get afraid of it.
Jeff, what do you do when you write yourself into a hole? It happens, especially if you don't plot. You write yourself into a hole quite a bit sometimes, and you set things up in some book, and then towards you get into the other book, and you're like, why did anybody allow me to do this? Like you want to call your editor and be like, you didn't think this was a bad idea. And you kind of blame them. You're like, why didn't you stop me? This is not a good idea. I mean, honestly, the only thing that you can do is you have to figure it out. And sometimes what I do is I'll call up my friends and be like, I'll work through it with them. Be like, okay, I said this. Opposition, there's a lot of loose ends that have to be cleared up. And so I've been doing that as I'm writing it. I'll talk to my friends and be like, okay, so what if we do this? And 2 hours later, you're working through this plot angle. And you just hope when you get off the phone you don't forget everything you just discussed. But you kind of do it. Now, here's the truth, though. If you get to the point where you can't work it out, if you literally have wrote yourself into a corner and you see no way out of it, you've done something. So you have to go back. And it's hard sometimes to let go of an idea. It's so hard sometimes to let go of a plot line that you want so badly, but it's not working. It's because you have to let go of it. And you kind of, it's like, people say kill your darlings. They're not so much talking about characters, they're talking about ideas, I think. And more than anything, kill your darlings, kill your plots, because ultimately, if it's not working for you, it's not going to work for anybody else. So it just depends on whether or not you can get out of it. Just working. I find it does help to talk it out and work through it with someone. What? Yeah, quick sugar names. That was so funny. So Sophie Jordan, texts me the most random crap sometimes. And she was like, quick, stripper names. And I'm like, so I started sending her all these names from her book, and I was like, this is a new talent of mine. I'm like, Candy Lace, I'm having all these names, Star, Dust, and and it's ridiculous. And she was really excited about it. She was like, wow. She was like, that was really fast. I was like, I know. I know, right? Hidden talent. Next question?
When you put Hunter in the lost series, did you know you were going to write it out and write it?
I actually wrote when I put him in Obsession. I wrote Obsession before I wrote, I don't know. I think I wrote Obsession before I wrote Origin. Okay. So I knew I was writing, and that was hard because I knew that book crossed over into Origin at one point. So the timeline was very tricky. And then I realized as I was writing Origin, Obsession wasn't out yet. And I realized the timeline did not add up. And so we had to go back to Obsession real quick and start tweaking things. Because I was like, oh my God, the timeline does not work. For them to cross over, that you do see Damon in Obsession and you see Hunter in Origin. But I knew that when I wrote Obsession, I knew that I was going to reintroduce them back in Opposition. I don't know why people are excited about that. I'm like, I am. I'll be sitting there when I get scared, oh my gosh, so we went to dinner last night, and Damaris and I ordered spinach artichoke dip, and they were like, spinach artichoke dip, he thinks it's a little bowl and these little chips, right? No. We thought it was going to be that. So the waitress looked at us after we placed our order, and she asked us the greatest question ever, and she got a damn good tip for this question. She said, what have you guys been smoking? Because our food, we didn't know the size of the food until they brought it out, and now we understand why she asked that question. It was like pizza. It was actually the coolest thing ever. It had melted cheese on the chips, and the spinach dip was in the bowl, so the cheese was already on the chips, so it was like a pizza. It was so good, yeah, but... Yeah, so what was that place called? School Ham? School Ham.
691.
And it's if you guys can't attend the dinner, let us know so that we can give it to somebody else. Just so that you guys can't do it. Next question?
Is there an author that you really look forward to? Like, we all sit and see your book coming out. Is there an author that you have that you really like to read?
She's asking what authors that I sit in anticipation of. Yes, Rachel Vincent. I love the Soul Screamer series, and I just want her, I'm like a fan. I want her just to write Soul Screamers and nothing else. Just talk to me about Todd, and I'm okay. Sophie Jordan, I love her historical stuff, too. I love the Firelight series. I really love that series. If you guys haven't read that, you need to read it. It came out in 2010. It's great. It's about dragons, and it's like and it's awesome. You guys need to read that. J.R. Ward. I love the Black Dagger Brotherhood because that series cracks me up. I don't know if it's supposed to or not, but I laughed so hard upon reading it. Who's read Black Dagger Brotherhood here? Okay? There's nothing funnier than white vampires talking about gangsters. And it's hilarious. It is the funniest thing ever. And I'm just like, did he just really say through that? And I love those books. They're the few books that can actually make me sit there and laugh out loud. Like, I will be in bed and just start laughing just because of what some of those characters say. Laura Adrian's The Breeze series. I get really excited when one of them are coming out. Sarah McLean, historical romance. On YA side, definitely Rachel Vincent. Oh my God, there's so many YA authors. Jana Oliver. I get really excited. She wrote the Demon Trapper series. Erica O'Rourke. Wendy Higgins. Sweet series. That's all I can think of.
I am mixing these up.
Oh, these are for reference.
621.
And you're allowed to bring a friend, by the way, right? Next question.
How close in the beginning of your series do you know how you're going to end it?
I always have a general idea of how it's going to end. Sometimes, the detail changes a little bit, but usually from the beginning, I know how the series ends.
Okay.
There's only one series that I've ever worked on that I didn't know how it was going to end, and I haven't gotten to that point yet, so that's not the last series, but I don't know how this other series is going to end, and that makes you a little nerve-wracking, because you're kind of like, what if I surprise myself? And then I'm like, what if I surprise the editor, and the editor's like, no. De nada. Next question? Yeah.
Can you talk about a deleted scene that you loved writing that you had to get rid of?
Oh my gosh. So, okay. I shared most of the deleted scenes from the Covenant series. They're up on my website underneath extras. They're there. Here, I had to start rewriting at 80,000 words. I had to scrap it completely and start over because I realized the book didn't have a plot. It was just a bunch of longing looks and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that's nice, but it's not there. So there's this really sexy scene that actually that was in here between Aiden and Alec. That was a linen closet that Jara from Once Upon a Twilight, I think, had put up on her blog a long time ago. I don't even know if it's on my website. I have to check that when I get home. Here is the big thing to tell you guys, if you guys don't realize this. Obsidian, I had to write in 7 days because we did something crazy. Never do that again. I had to rewrite it 50% in 3 days.
They were jellyfish.
No, it is. Well, no, they jellyfish people. Actually, I always picture them as giant insects on Wednesday. Not for real, but I didn't know what kind of aliens they were going to be, and that's what I kept picturing in the back of my head, and I'm like, that's not sexy. We gotta change that. And then I kept trying to think of the aliens, and then I remember the movie Cocoon, and this is an old movie, and when they had the pods in the pool, and the pods were glowing, that's where I got the glowing idea. And they didn't glow, it's just these pods did. In the original Obsidian, Dawson was in Obsidian, and it was totally different. It was Dawson and Damon. Pat was interested kind of in Dawson, because Dawson was like the nice one, and he was nice to her, and he was always like kind of hanging out with her and doing things with her, and Damon was like the jerk in the background, you know, who was just so mean and just like the evil twin, right? So that whole beginning of that book had to be taken out, and then, you know, they were just like, I don't like this idea. The editors was like, we don't want Dawson in the book right now. What can we do with Dawson? And I think that you just need to focus on Pat and Damon. And then I had to scrap like 50% of that book and then take Dawson out. And I'm like, why is Dawson not here? So then I had to come up with the idea why Dawson wasn't here. And then, so there's a whole part of that book that's not even seen by anybody. That's totally different than what's in wherever that is. And it was also called Fallen Stars was the original title. That's what the contract was under, Fallen Stars. So we had to change it to Fallen Skies. And once again, insect aliens.
One more question.
Is there any genres of your children's writing that you would like to take a crack at?
She asked if there's any genres that I would like to take a crack at. And I pretty much write almost all the genres right now, except for historical. I would love to be able to write historical. I could not do it. These people would be talking like they were in the 90s. It would be ridiculous. Like, they'd be like, you douche. I tried to pitch that idea to my agent. I said, I think it'd be great to write historical and have them think and act like it's the year 2013. She was like, yes, that's great. She was like, no. And I'm like, why not? I think it'd be funny. I think people would read it and they would laugh. I mean, you know, it's like you could have the pretty dresses and good schools and all that. But I didn't want to do the research to make it happen. I was like, I don't want to research how they really talk. I mean, that's annoying. And so then she was like, Jennifer, no, you will get ripped apart in every review, because people take, like, the people who are hardcore historical romances, they take that stuff seriously, and they will, like, you know, yeah, so they're just like, that did not happen. Napoleon was not that way. I'm like, oh, you know? Who was it? Leah? I can never say her name. Leah Barduo. Someone complained to her. It was hilarious. They complained to her because they felt that her map of her fantasy world wasn't accurate enough. And she was like, it's not real. And I laughed so hard. But there was moments.
The last winner invitation. Everyone has a ticket. Last chance, right?
I don't have a ticket. Wait, she doesn't have a ticket.
I don't have a ticket.
We have one person over there.
Thank you.
On the blog, like, oh my god, it was such a great idea. No authors really acknowledged that. That was great.
Well, I've been toying with the idea for a while, and I was talking to our bloggers in Houston and was like, do you think I should do this? And they're like, I think it's a great idea. So I'm glad that everyone's reading it. But it's really funny, just like Jen, like I had to respond to her, like I asked her whether or not she likes cat dogs or goldfish, and she was like unicorn. And that's why Dean Winchester's underneath of it, like
7, 3, 3, 6, 7, 6.
Angela from Reading Angel. Angela, I just saw her last week. I just want to think, do we have time for more questions? I think so. Questions?
When writing my characters, especially female characters, have you ever written a book like them where I do a cheese or turning out to be a bitch or
actually, no. Not that I know of. I will say with like the Gamble Brothers books, like Miss Gore, I didn't really like. So I had to really give her reasons for why she behaved the way she did. For those who've read the adult book. No, not yet. But I'm sure there's going to come a day that I'm going to write a character that I'm like, oh, I hate this character. And I just hope it's not a main character because I think it'd be really difficult to connect and to continue a series when you don't like the main character. And if it's not done on purpose. Oh, Don't Look Back, Sam. Don't Look Back that comes out in April from Disney. Sam, her past, I didn't like. It was hard. She was just not a nice person. And so, but it was different. That's kind of a different situation.
Yeah, I think but one is they're going to be.
I think that series is on hold right now.
And then is there anything in the book like that you could go back and change?
She asked if there's anything in any book that would go back and change completely. I think that's a trap to fall into as a writer because there's always going to be something you're going to want to change. One thing I do not do is once that book hits I never read it, ever again. And the reason being is because I'm going to find stuff I want to change. I'm going to find words. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I should have reworded this differently. And there's nothing you can do. So I try not to let myself fall into that trap because I think there's always going to be things you wish you did differently. There's always going to be like plot twists that you come up with after the fact that you can't work in later. So I try not to fall into that trap because it gets, I think, dangerous for a writer. You have like all these what ifs that are never going to come to fruition.
As a writer, like when you hit like that wall, like that you don't know what to do, like what do you do to get around it?
Yes, what I do if I hit a wall that I don't know what to do, I tend to I force myself through it, mostly. Now, sometimes it could come because I just don't know what to do with the scene, or I just don't feel like writing the scene. I mean, if you write, you get to a point where you just don't feel like writing that scene. So what I do is I jump ahead and I write something else. That's okay. People are doing, I don't want to tell you. I will jump ahead and write a different scene, and then go back and tackle that scene. So sometimes when you hit writer's block, you just need to jump and write a different scene in the book, get excited again, and then go back and tackle that.
It's probably like when you write stories, isn't that a question every week? No, that's the first one. Oh, you guys order all that conversation, right?
What she's asking when you do different POV things and you do like trust me, wait for you, or things like that. And the sneak peek that you see on the left series of the different POVs, is it hard? It's not for me because what I usually do for like Wait for You, for example, Trust Me, I took Trust Me and actually copied and pasted it into a new Word file. So I had the timeline right there, and I would do it chapter by chapter. And of course, I cut things out, added things in, that kind of stuff. It wasn't hard for me because like the basis of that story was already there. So now I'm just approaching it from different eyes, and of course, adding new things in and all that stuff. So that's how I do it. I know some authors might do things different. Yes.
The option for, I was hearing about an option for like maybe the Lux series for like a movie or TV show. Is that, how real is that?
The Lux series was optioned for movie, and the Covenant series was optioned for TV. So it's like two different worlds. TV and film, they're totally different, crazy things that they do. It's going very well. Both of them are chucking along. When you have options, two things either happen. The option turns into a movie, and everybody gets to see it, or it languishes in option hell. For the rest of it's option life. So you pull your rights and say, I'm done.
Well, how much creativity do you have, creative say do you have?
None. No, I'm okay with that. No, I do have some. With the Lux series, they will. I can't say a lot because they're hardcore contracts, and people get because when they go to make movies and film, they have a lot of money on the table. When they're approaching screenwriters, directors, I mean, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars that are on the table for just to get one person. And so they were very tricky what they can say, but I will tell you this, like I've talked to people and they've got my input, and so they've given me ideas which were great, like things I wish I could have done in the Lux series, for example, but I couldn't because it was in first POV. And I couldn't do it because it's in Cat PRV. She's not running around anywhere. So I do know there's going to be changes. But it's not changing the story. It's not changing the characters. It's just adding to it. It's the same with the Covenant series. We've had phone calls, and I know what direction they're going in, and I'm very excited about the direction they're going in with it. And they pretty much, you know, it's different per studio, because some studios, they don't tell you anything. The author finds out because Deadline or Hollywood Reporter make the announcement that they casted somebody, or the director is now heading up this project, and they're like, well, thanks for letting me know. And then, luckily, I do think on the film side, they're a lot more open than on the TV side, because the TV side moves at a rapid clip, because they have to go to seasons and pitch certain times of the year they have to pitch. But the movies, you know, they're kind of like, they can take their time a little bit with things. But you sell your rights, and that's what happens. You sell your rights to a studio, and they can ultimately do what they want to do with it. I understand that things have to be changed to reach a broad audience, because ultimately, if they just pitch the Lux series as Aliens in High School, do you think anybody is going to see that? Maybe some, but it'll be you guys who know the series. But the average person's going to be like, I might go watch this just for the laugh factor, you know. But so they've got to change something. Obviously, they're not going to say Damon's not an alien. I mean, they're going to keep that. But you know, I understand that things have to be changed and tweaked for a broad audience. But unfortunately, I hope if they'll send you. Sometimes they let you read the script. And I hope if I had a problem, like a huge problem with the script, that they would take into consideration, because I think that happened with Sandra Claire in the first script. She was like, no, you know, I can't get behind this. So sometimes they will they'll say, okay, we're going to change this. Other times, I mean, they have every right to say, well, guess what, that's why we paid you that money. So shut up. But I mean, I'm so excited to go through the process that I was like, when I was talking to the people, I was like, you could put Megatron in the middle of the picture. Are you okay with it? Like a transformer just like appears. You're like, what's up? And then she's here. You movie. Next question.
I enjoy writing cliffhangers.
Nah.
Opal was the worst, and I think Origin's pretty bad too.
Yeah. It's so funny because I don't think Origin's a cliffhanger. And we got to this big debate at one signing, and so every Origin I signed, I said, this is not a cliffhanger, and every single one of those books. Like a little smiley face, like a wink. I don't think Origin's a cliffhanger, because I think Origin just basically leaves you with, like, oh, I want to know what's going to happen next. Opal, in my opinion, just like Apollyon, was it DSC? The DSC is a cliffhanger. I mean, that stops right on a dime. You're like, spells happen. Like, me. I don't know. I mean, I know sometimes that you know when a book's going to end, and you know this is the perfect spot, and you know, like, you know, it's so funny with Opal. My editor emails me, and she's like, are you sure you're going to end the book like this? I'm like, yeah. Like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, they're going to be so mad at me. I'm like, I know. But I hate cliffhangers. Reading them, I get mad. I'm like, I can't believe this book is no cliffhangers. It's so stupid. Yeah, I can't take it from somebody else. I'm like, whatever, double standard. I don't care. No, I mean, yeah, I do get nervous when I know a book has a cliffhanger and it's coming out. I do get nervous because I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to be for the next 6 months. This is all I'm going to hear from everybody. But it's I mean, I don't know. I don't think we get like a perverse pleasure out of it, but I think just that we know what we're doing. I mean, if any author says no, I'm like, you know what you're doing. You just ended in the middle of a scene. You know what you're doing. Next question.
Are you able to say what network?
No, I don't even know if they're even at that point with it. It's basically a pilot has to be filmed. So what happens with TV is they go out to networks with a script and a pitch saying, we have this, you know, are you interested? The network order a pilot. They don't pay for that. They just basically order a pilot and say, okay, let's show us what you got. And then they film a pilot. And then they pitch the pilot to the network. The network can come back and say, okay, I like this, but I want you to make this and this change. And then the company at that point can decide to make that change, or they can say, no, we're not going to make that change. We've already spent too much money. It's dead in the water. And what usually happens at that point, they all go dead in the water because they've already spent $3 or $4 or $5 million to film a pilot. And so they're not going to keep investing money if they don't really think that network is going to pick up. The good thing about the Covenant series is the company that they were optioned by is a production company and a finance company. Meaning they do not have to go find the money to film it. They have the money. So now all they have to do is get a pilot order, which will probably happen because there's no money being exchanged for that. So what that probably means is I will see a pilot, definitely. You guys might not. but I think that means that I will definitely see a pilot of the film. Because it'll be cool, and hopefully they'll share things. I really hope it goes on, they share like past photos and that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting to see it start coming to life when they get into the casting. I know when they get into the casting, that's the part that I'm hiding from the internet forever. The casting part, because it's like not everybody's gonna be happy. You know what I mean? Especially in the Lux series. So not everybody's gonna be happy with it, and people can be very vocal about their own happiness. And I'm like, as long as there's somebody you would not kick out of your bed for eating crackers, shut up and lie about it. You're gonna find somebody good looking and who's hopefully crack. Any more questions? Yeah.
When and how did you start writing?
It's cliche as it sounds. I've always wanted to be a writer. I started writing when I was really, really young. I wrote poetry, and it was really bad. And I wrote it on my walls in my bedroom in permanent marker. And I swear it's still there, like it bleeds through the paint. And then I got into high school, and I was writing. I wrote my first book in 9th grade while I was in algebra class. Longhand. I also had to take remedial math in college. So then I wrote throughout high school. And then when I got into college, the college is not easy. So, I had to really pay attention. And then I did, I hate to say, I don't want to say real jobs, because writing is real jobs, like going to work, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until 2007 that I started to do it again seriously. And it came out of being a little bit bored, not really having anything to do. My husband's a cop, so he works in the evening. So I would come home from work and have, 6-7 hours, and literally during that time before I started writing, I was telling Martha, I played every game of Super Mario Brothers there was on the computer with the arrow buttons and the space bar. And I didn't cheat. I didn't use any warp level cheats. I started from level 1 all the way, and that's what I would do in my evenings. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I started writing again. So it was mostly just how I got into it, and then I decided that I was going to pursue it seriously and try to get an agent, get a publishing contract, that kind of stuff. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is Cursed going to be a series or just one book?
Right now it's just one book. There's the potential for a series. It's just working through the contracts of everything else before I can really go back to that world and kind of explore what I want to do with it. The problem with Cursed is that I have so many ideas for it, but it's like you cannot. It's like when you're dealing with kids with special abilities, it's like you can't. It's X-Men. It's like, and so you're like, how do I make this not X-Men? And then you're like, it's going to be X-Men. No matter what you do, it's going to be like X-Men. So it's like, until I can find a way that it's not like X-Men, everybody always asks me when I'm going to write a zombie book, because they know I love Walking Dead. I like to look on your face, you're like, no. And the thing is, I always say, I'm like, I can't write a zombie book, because geez, how can you make the zombies different? Pretty much everyone's covered the zombie apocalypse from every which corner you can look at. And it's the same thing with Cursed. It's like, if I can't make it feel original enough, then I don't know what to do with it, kind of thing. So, maybe one day. Any other questions?
Yeah. How come you wrote under Galen when you first started?
The reason for the pen name is originally when I first started, there were shelving issues because I had so many books coming out that they were afraid that I couldn't get as many books shelved because there literally would be this entire shelf of just Armentrout books, So we did a pen name. Also, the pen name was for the Gamble Brothers, and so okay, well we'll just do it. Actually, it's for Unchained was the first one. And then we're like, we'll keep it separate so younger readers won't realize that it's you, so we don't have crossover for the younger ones. And then my younger readers are like little private detectives. That didn't work. They figured that crap out in like 5 minutes, and I was like, I give up. But then we decided, okay, we obviously know we're the same person, so let's just have it where if Jane Lynn is on the cover, then that's like a warning label, like saying this is a more mature. And I hate the word mature book because it's like we're saying teenagers aren't mature enough to handle this stuff. So I hate saying it that way, but that's the way they say it. That this has more adult content in it, adult themes. But I think they're actually leaving out mental themes. So I mean, I don't even know if I think Be With Me will have it on there. I don't think Stay With Me will. And we're actually just reading it out because it's just there's no point. It's not when they put my real name bigger than my pen name. Yeah. So I'm like, really, guys. So I think that's funny, but so I think we're just going to read it out. Because I mean, ultimately, like, I write upper YA, is what I call it. I don't even know if it's a real thing, but I decided it was. And so, I mean, and my new adult really isn't that different. And so it, you know, I think I've always felt this way. Readers know what they're capable of reading. And parents should know what their kids are capable of reading. That's not my job. And you know, when I get emails from parents like, do you think my 13-year-old can read this? And that's a questionable age because there's a very difference between some 13-year-olds and other 13-year-olds. Like my niece, I would never let her read it into maturity level. And I always tell parents, I'm like, you need to read it first. I mean, because I don't know, is your kid watching on TV? Then let them read it. You know, are they watching the CW network? I'm sure they can read the Gamble Brothers. They know what's going on. So it's kind of lost its purpose now. So we're probably going to get rid of it. Any other questions?
That's the only one I have around. I have about Bridget, actually. For me, it stands out in new adult because neither one is having anything.
I know, right? Oh my God.
Yeah. So what made you?
You're telling me those college students that don't have severe issues? I never thought that.
I guess what made you want to do that was
because of that reason. Because apparently I missed those college years where I'm like rocking the corner somewhere, like whatever. I don't even understand that myself, and I wrote a book kind of like that, so. Yeah, I mean, it's because it's why I love losing it. I call her back. It's because it's so funny, and you know, she's yelling cat in the middle of and it's you know, none of them had issues. Just like in Bridget, there were issues, but they were normal, everyday, like, you know, issues. So I really would like to see more of that in new adult. I would like to see, like, foreplay. Foreplay is very fun. And I would like to see more of that because, I mean, seriously, enough with the ink. It's like, after a while, you're just like, really? And we joke around, and, you know, it's kind of like, because we always like, did we miss those years of college where all these terrible, horrific things happen to people? And apparently happens quite a bit because everybody is messed up right now. But, you know, yeah, I like changing it up because I can myself, like, I stopped watching Vampire Diaries because of I call it unnecessary ink.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like to introduce the sour bomb, I was like, out.
Yeah.
Done. And then I clicked on it one time and I was like, oh my God, Stefan's a mermaid because apparently he's breathing on the water. And everyone's like, he can't breathe, he's a vampire. And I'm like, there's air bubbles. I started on that. I'm like, what? Ew. And he's drowning, but he doesn't need to breathe. I'm so confused. And then I was like, vampire mermaid. I'm trying to get Terry Winslow to write it. She won't write it. I'm like, this would be the biggest thing ever. Stefan would be a lead character. But yeah, so it's I think it needs something different. You know, I kind of like the light fluffy over sometimes.
Which is really annoying.
Any other questions? I know, right? And there's more.
I know a lot of authors have like one book released this year, and it seems like every time I turn around, it's like, oh, there's new books from the first, and not that I'm black.
Yeah.
But like your writing process, like don't edit, right? Or you just like a fast writer? Like how does that process go?
I typically stuff, I think you're letting me always tell you writers not to do this, and I always tell writers do whatever you feel makes you comfortable. Don't let someone tell you what to do and what not to do. I self-edit as I write, so when I turn in a manuscript, most of the times I do not have large revisions. In the Covenant series, very small revisions, Lux series, with the exception of Obsidian, very large edits, small edits, White Hot Kiss, all of them. They're luckily very small edits. So I edit as I write, and I can write a book. I wrote Obsidian in 7 days. I don't think I could ever do that again. Wait for You is 20 days, and that book is like 105,000 words. But that's only because I was so into it. Like, you know what I mean? I was like living and breathing that world. So on average, I write a book in about a month and a half, and usually when I turn it over to the editor, it's ready to go. That's something I usually don't share with other people, authors, because some authors will slave over that one manuscript for years. Right. And now I'm like, yeah, I turned my first draft over. And they just look at me like I hate you. But, that's what the editors get paid for. Fix that crap. No, I don't have that mentality. Because I would never turn something over that was like, oh no. Like, this is embarrassing. But I think you can over-edit, and so that's why when I'm done, I'm done. And I'm going to let my editor read it, because ultimately if my editor says, Jennifer, 80% of this book is good, 20% is just a hot mess. You need to fix it. And that's what they do. They send it back to me, and then, we'll talk, they'll give you suggestions, and they'll work you through it. But I do think I can't keep up the pace as I have, just because like with the books they start coming out, like once the publisher realizes you can write fast and edit fast, but once they realize it, they can be like, oh yeah, we have a 6-month publication schedule, we're going to fast track you. And the problem with that is though, it's like everyone starts doing it to you. And so literally during the summer I had 5 different books come in for edits at one time. 5 of them. And I don't usually fight edits. Like, I'm not one of the authors who gets in it to the editor and they're like going at it like back and forth, which can happen. Ultimately, I think they know what they're talking about, so that's why they're an editor. But I can't keep that pace up. I don't think much longer, just because I don't have time to market a book. I don't have, I can't even go to a Halloween party. I'm like, because I got to finish writing this book. So ultimately, the releases are going to start slipping out a little bit, just because I don't want to burn myself out with the deadlines, and that's what I'm afraid will happen. And it will eventually happen if I keep, I wrote, I think, 7 or 8 books this year so far, and I've done edits on more than that. So there has to be a break at some point. My agent, when I finish Stay With Me, which is what I have to write after opposition, my writing schedule opens up a little bit. So because the books that are not due for like another year or whatever, and so she's like, you need to go away on vacation for like 3 weeks, leave your computer behind, and just go. And I'm like, I couldn't do that. Like, I'd be so bored, because for the last 3 years, that's all I've done. It's right. So, but I also, one thing to people who do write, don't compare yourself to people who write fast, because you're always going to end up feeling like you're not as good as someone else. And just because you write fast does not mean the quality's there. So and you guys realize, this book, 80,000 words, I have chalk. I just recently read 40,000 words and had to start over a whole new brand new idea. Because it was just, just things are fast doesn't mean it's going to be good, and you have to give yourself time to really figure that out. Any other questions? Okay. Signing?
Okay, for the signing, we are going to